Thank you all very much for coming to the Factory 40 venue. Before I hand over to our candidate Martin Schulz, just a few quick words. We'd like to thank David, the entrepreneur behind Factory 40. This space is something that actually embodies a lot of the elements of Martin Schulz's campaign. It's a space where journalists, designers, architects, entrepreneurs can come together and share and cross-fertilize a lot of the innovative strategies that embody the new industrialization that Europe needs. So thank you very much to David for allowing us to have this space. Just a couple of statistics on our campaign so far. For background, by the end of the campaign, we will have visited 24 European countries. Just in the last week, we have been to Ireland, Poland, and Portugal. And in the next week, we'll be visiting Italy, Malta, Spain, and Poland again. We have had very big crowds at a lot of the venues that we've visited. Martin was received in Romania by 10,000 supporters, in France by 2,000, and in Spain by 5,000. One important point to note is that the press coverage, thanks to you, is up 250% on the 2009 election to a similar stage in the campaign. And just on our social media reach, in the last week, Martin Schulz's Facebook page has reached 8 million Facebook users. We now have 100,000 Facebook likes on his page and 100,000 followers on Twitter. But the most important element of this is not the numbers, it's more the community that's been built. Because I think of all the European parties, we've been the most successful in terms of linking the online to the offline and mobilizing the grassroots strategy to try and increase the turnout, which is one of the key points of the election. So with those background notes, I'd like to now hand over to the PS candidate, Martin Schulz.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you very much for your presence. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce shortly some of the key elements of my campaign, and then I'm prepared to answer to your questions. I want to become the President of the European Commission as the result of a vote of citizens. I think we are in the process to transform European democracy, and the process is a process to regain trust. The experience I made during my campaign until today is the biggest problem for the European Union is this loss of trust, that citizens don't trust either to national nor to European institutions. How to regain trust? And I think the election campaign is a chance to show to the citizens that their vote matters directly, and therefore I want to become not President of the European Commission as the result of a backroom deal. I want to become the President of the European Commission after the European election with a majority in the European Parliament, and as the result of a vote of millions and millions of citizens in the next 3 weeks. I will, 2.5 weeks under the date of the vote, I want to mobilize as much as possible citizens to increase this turnout and to give to the process the necessary support. One remark, there is a continuous rumor about the European Council to suggest another candidate than those who are running now for the post. I think to play with such a third person is a dream coming true for Eurosceptics, showing and underlining that they are right by saying democracy in Europe is not a reality, it is not existing. Therefore, I think the process we launched is a process to strengthen European democracy, and this is my fight to regain trust by deepening the democratic structures of the European Union. I want to fight for jobs. This is my second point. I was yesterday in Portugal and I was astonished. Portugal will leave from the program and can get back to the markets. This is a step forward, and I think we should honor it. But then experts told me yesterday, now the crisis is over. I disagree. The crisis is not over when a country get back to the markets. When banks buy state bonds of a country, then the crisis is not over. This is one element of improvement. The crisis is over when the 27 million unemployed people in Europe find a job, when the 6 million young men and women in the European Union without an employment, when they no longer pay with their future, with their life chances for a crisis they have not caused. And therefore, every proposal of the next Commission must pass the job test. Is the proposal, is the initiative an initiative leading to more employment? And by the way, not to continuous traineeship, unpaid, and not with 0-hour contracts. Jobs in the frame of our social systems, and therefore the fight against unemployment of young people is one of my highest priority. The youth guarantee must be implemented, but we must be very concrete in the short term, because youth unemployment is not only affecting the young men and women, it affects their parents, the grandparents, the friends, the whole society. And politics is not a goal in itself, it is a tool to guarantee what we have as an acting generation, to save and to give as a legacy to the next generation. I don't want to give youth unemployment as the legacy of my acting generation to the next one. Small and medium enterprises are in those countries where the youth unemployment rate is highest, the backbone of the society. And if I discuss, like in Portugal yesterday, with young startups, when I discuss with family enterprises, third, fourth generation, with quality products and services, they tell me all the same story. We could invest, we could employ young people, but our problem is access to credits. So to fight against the credit crunch, to guarantee access to credits for small and medium enterprises is one of the biggest challenges for the European Union, therefore to develop the European Investment Bank in the direction of SME bank, and by the way also to a risk capital bank for startups especially, and I get back to it a little bit later in the digital agenda, is one of the priorities we should work on. So jobs and the fight against youth unemployment and decent jobs with decent salaries, and in addition to that, to end with one of the most shameful things in the European Union. I have a son and I have a daughter, and if both apply for a job, my son get in an average 15% more salary than my girl. This is a shame. Why should this is also an undecent situation for me as a father. Why my daughter is less than my son. Therefore the gender pay gap, which is a dramatic one in Europe, should be to end the gender pay gap should be an initiative of the next Commission. If I become, as a result of a vote of citizens, President of the European Commission, in addition to the fight for jobs and against the youth unemployment, to overcome the gender pay gap in the European Union is a high priority. My third point is the digital agenda. The 21st century, ladies and gentlemen, is a digital century, and the European Union is falling far behind the United States. And economically, the risk exists that our knowledge society in Europe becomes completely dependent from United States companies. Therefore, we must invest to catch up, invest in the infrastructure. The investment in the digital infrastructure, in the broadband infrastructure in the European Union is an investment to create jobs and growth in Europe in itself, but it is a precondition to support, especially in the digital world, startup, and to open the market is in the European Union, by the way, a question to look to monopolies and to use the tools of the European Union. If in Brussels two shoe manufacturers have a monopoly, the Commission reacts immediately. I'm from time to time surprised that in a market where monopolies are existing, in the digital market, the European Union until today has not reacted. And therefore, to look, is there real competition or are there existing monopolies, and how we can break the monopolies and how we can open the market for real competition and how European companies could compete are the questions the European Commission has to deal with. And I give you a small experience of my campaign of yesterday in Lisbon. I visited yesterday in Lisbon a building like this one, full of young men and women with startups in the digital world, wonderful, fascinating projects, all with the two same messages. We have created our small enterprises 1 year ago, 6 months ago. In the meantime, we could employ 3, 4, 5 people. Now we have offers from the United States of America to take over or to give us the necessary backing by risk capital. One man told me that he is just now on his way to Boston. And I asked him, what would you prefer, to stay here in Europe or to go to the United States? All answers, to stay in Europe. But in Europe, we have not the support, neither the cooperation facilities with the universities or the big companies who could support us, who could be our clients, and therefore the risk that we go to the United States is high. Europe is falling far behind. In the digital agenda, one thing is quite clear that was visible also yesterday, and you know it as I know it. Monopolies, and to break monopolies is also to guarantee pluralism. Especially in our knowledge society, in our information society, competition is also pluralism. And pluralism is an element of democracy. Our data protection is one thing we must focus on. Our data are becoming a trade good. You know, as I know, that Facebook bought WhatsApp for 50 employees for $19 billion. Company with 50 employees bought for 19 billion US dollars. Why? Because they have 450 million users and their data. And they sold the data. You see, data, your personal, my personal data is a trade good in the 21st century. Therefore, the digital agenda is a decisive element of our economy. To remain to be competitive is one hand, and to save our privacy, to defend our privacy, to defend our right to decide what with our data happens, who can use it, who makes which kind of profit, and who gives our data to whom, is also an important question. This combination between big government and big data, the abuse of our data by security institutions, security authorities, in combination with the abuse of our data as a trade good, is changing the world, and for sure changing the autonomy of the European Union and its member states. And therefore, I think the whole digital debate is completely underestimated, and I will put it in the center of my activities. Ladies and gentlemen, last point. Tax dumping within the European Union is existing, but it is not fair. People are looking to a European Union where countries are running against each other with tax dumping. This is destroying trust. Therefore, to introduce a minimum tax rate is an important point. But tax fraud is a crime. And tax avoidance may be legal, but it is immoral. 2 trillion euros every year, 2 trillion euros escape from taxation in the European Union because companies and super rich people can bring their money to tax havens. You all, you have to live with the principle, I presume, most of you, I presume all of you. The country of your salary is the country of your tax. You have not the right to say, so I live in Brussels, but I pay my taxes in wherever. You pay your taxes in the country where you have your salaries. It's a principle existing. The country of my salary is the country of my tax. But the country of my profit is not the country of my tax. Billions and billions are brought in tax havens. I want to introduce a simple principle. The country of the profit is the country of the tax. This is fairness. If the country of the salaries are the countries of the tax, why should the country of the profit not be the country of the tax? This is my proposal. My opponent was 20 years Prime Minister of Luxembourg. You could raise the question to him what he thinks about my proposal, because citizens and people should know who makes which proposal on which background. And therefore, thank you very much, first of all, for your attention, and I'm prepared to answer to your questions. I need somebody who decides. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Schulz, James Cantor from the International New York Times. You suggested that the commission, the current commission, under a socialist competition commissioner, hasn't done enough to break digital monopolies. I wondered if you could say more about that and whether specifically you meant that more needed to be done about Google. And number two, my second question, if I may, what are the implications of your views on social protection and on the digital agenda for the speed with which we complete TTIP negotiations, transatlantic trade negotiations? Thank you.
The Commission is acting as a college, and I think Joaquin Almunia did a lot about competition in the European Union, that the Commission as a whole has not reacted, in my eyes, sufficiently until today to introduce the necessary competition in the digital field. Is not only the responsibility of one single person. We should, by the way, not criticize American companies. That's not what I'm doing. To be quite clear, that the Americans are successful shows that the Americans are intelligent, that they invest where they could make enormous profits and enlarge their activities. This is not to blame the Americans, but I don't want to become completely dependent from, and let's speak about Google. If you introduce your name, if I introduce your name in this research machine, Google, and the answer is competent journalist, or forget about the man, he knows nothing, this is neither decided by you nor by me. It is the result of an anonymous decision of an algorithm in Silicon Valley. You can say we, you and me, we can live with it. It will not destroy our life. But if you introduce the name of a company, of a young startup company here in Brussels, with a specific product or service, and it appears in Google, wonderful young startup, or go to the American companies with the same services, it's also decided there, but that decides about the chances on the market of companies, of competitors. And now we are discussing that those who compete with Google should get a window, should get a line in the machine, and they have to pay for it. This is, I think, not the way of competition. If you have to pay to your competitor, that he takes you serious, this is, and who defines at the end the price is your competitor. This is not competition we should have in the European Union. Therefore, we have to improve this. And your second question, the trade relations between the two big democratic areas in the world, based with their economy on fundamental rights, on constitutions guaranteeing individual rights, that these two big economic areas, the United States and the European Union, are these two. In a worldwide competition with regions where our values, our standards don't matter, that they try to combine their capacities and their economic power. This is logic, and I think, therefore, trade, by the way, trade is also a key element of our economic development in the 21st century. This is logic. But more and more I'm seeing that people believe, on both sides of the Atlantic by the way, that it is not to increase trade and to create growth and jobs, that it is a tool to undermine our environmental, our ecological, environmental, our social standards, our fundamental rights standards, to undermine our standards of privacy, of individual data protection. This is not my view on TTIP. Therefore, those who misunderstand TTIP as a tool to reduce our standards should get a clear answer. That will never happen in Europe. You will never get a majority, and I will fight against that. Therefore, data protection as a precondition, a clear defined standard of individual rights in the digital world via a digital bill of rights of for the European citizens is in my eyes an instrument we have to define before we can agree with the United States about a free trade agreement.
Do you hear me? I'm Christoph Schulz from Die Welt. Good morning.
Morning.
I only wanted to ask you, you want to become the president of the Commission. Do you see the risks that you might become a victim of backroom deals? I heard, I read the allegations of Mr. Gabriel on Monday morning in Germany. How would you gauge this risk? Could you be as concrete as possible, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schulz. I spoke at the early beginning of my introduction about that. Risk, nobody in life is free of risks. There's a lot of risks. And I repeat therefore what I said, I thought I was clear enough, but I repeat it. Those who believe that we can make an appeal to citizens to vote for candidates, and after the election we don't care about our appeal. And I want to remember that 12 prime ministers of my political family and 11 prime ministers of the PPE family appointed me in Rome, the other 11 Juncker in Dublin, in a fight. There was a Congress with 2 candidates and a strong fight, and I think 4 appointed Guy Verhofstadt, 27 out of 28 heads of states and government. This is the council gathering behind closed doors, appointed publicly one of the candidates. And as you are German like me, you don't believe that you can tell to citizens vote for a candidate and after the election you say it was Aprilscherz. This is for sure not feasible. Those who dream about that, by the way, my feeling is these are often not the heads of state and government themselves. There are people around them who spread these rumors all over. My feeling is heads of states and government themselves, and I'm in a close contact with a lot of them, know very well that they themselves are the result of such a procedure in their functions. For them it is a relative normal thing, and therefore my feeling is it will be quite clear that one of the candidates will become the next president of the Commission. If not, I would suggest to read the letter the 3 group leaders of the Social Democratic, PPE and Liberal group wrote in the last week of Strasbourg, that their groups, and it is for today around 500 members of the European Parliament, will for sure vote only a candidate who run in the election as next president of the Commission.
Mr. Schulz, Florence Autrel, La Tribune. You said that you were in favor of a minimum tax rate and that we should change the way companies are being taxed on their profits. How do you change that? Because as you know, I mean, there's a unanimity rule that makes it properly impossible to get an agreement or to change that kind of thing. So would you suggest we should do something at the Eurozone level? We should have a treaty between Eurozone members with different rules. That's my first question. And second, there's debate in France about the strong euro. So what's your position on that? Should we have a political debate about the currency and the exchange rate with the other ones, with the US?
To start with your second question, I find the question quite interesting. Should we have a political debate? the political debate is already there. We are in the middle of a political debate about the question which role should the European Central Bank play, what kind of measures are necessary to avoid a strong euro. Quite clear, the euro is a strong currency. The euro is in relation to other currency very strong for the time being, and this is on which concerns the export of some of the countries of the European Union, for sure a problem. But I think the debate to react for the time being is too early. My feeling is that we should wait for the next decisions of the European Central Bank before we comment. My feeling is in the European Central Bank there is a strong debate going on. What should we do with, or how should we react to the development of the euro on the international markets? What kind of impact has it for the export? Until the very moment, I think euro is strong. And there is no need to interfere directly and politically for the time being, especially not when we have to wait for the next steps of the European Central Bank. Your first question was the minimum, yeah. This is not only for the Eurozone. We have member states. This is a point concerning especially the single market, the free movement of capital goods and services in the free market concerns all the member states of the European Union. And therefore, I know very well that this, like most of the text questions, requires unanimity to come to a solution. But my experience in the election campaign is that citizens are fed up with the fact that within the same single market, the European budget supports countries and regions with money from the European budget to develop an infrastructure, and that then companies are dislocated from one country to another one after the European Union has financed a certain infrastructure by tax competition. And you, I presume, you are a French journalist, you know the debate about delocalization and the destructive element behind that, because people are not longer prepared to accept that we have a kind of illoyal competence in the tax system, which is destroying jobs on one side and creating jobs on another side by playing one country against another. This is not the spirit of the European Union. I know it requires unanimity, but that's not a reason for me not to try to fight against such a structure.
But that's not a reason, that's not a reason to change the unanimity rule. Or try to change it.
I think you and I, we share the view that we would be happy if the instrument would be better. I can't change it from today. I'm not here to promise things I can't do, and I cannot change it to a qualified majority. I have to live with the priority of competence in the taxation for the member states. But let's be honest, the fight, we are fighting also against tax evasion, to close tax havens, to put a blacklist, for example, of those countries which are tax havens, and to say companies who are there should not participate in a call for tender and paid with European money and making profits with European money, and they bring the profits to tax havens to destroy social justice in the European Union. I need also unanimity. But wherever I am in the European Union, I discuss with citizens. Citizens are fed up with the European Union, with their view on the European Union, that this is a union where, let's take the financial transaction tax yesterday debate. If you cut pensions and salary in Europe, it takes perhaps hours. If you introduce a financial transaction tax for a financial sector who has in an enormous way participated in the crisis, caused the crisis in which we are, you want to introduce a financial transaction tax, you need years and years and years. And the feeling behind this, the feeling of citizens looking to that is this is not fair, this is not just. And I know I need unanimity, but I fight against this feeling to defend the idea of Europe, to regain trust of citizens that there are people there who fight for them and against such developments.
Monsieur Schulz, bonjour. Yuri Kouchevich du Soir, une question en français. Peut-être deux questions. La première, vous êtes le troisième candidat, le troisième des grands, le deuxième des très grands et le troisième, si on inclut les libéraux, à présenter votre vision.
À mes yeux, je suis le premier.
Bien sûr, oui. Enfin, en tout cas, chronologiquement, à présenter votre programme. On a un peu du mal, on a un peu du mal à voir les différences entre les programmes. Lorsque vous présentez, vous et vos deux autres collègues, le programme, vous parlez tous du chômage des jeunes, de la création d'emplois, avec un accent sur le numérique, sur les PME et l'accès au crédit. Vous avez évoqué là une proposition, une idée sur la taxation que voilà, moi, je n'avais pas entendu effectivement, mais dans un domaine qui est très compliqué, comme ma collègue vient de le dire. Mais donc, pour en revenir sur la différenciation des programmes, on a du mal, et je crois que les citoyens ont du mal à voir la différence. Est-ce que vous pourriez expliquer comment vous imaginez vous différencier assez pour que les lecteurs puissent profiter de cette possibilité d'influer sur le débat? Deuxième petite question peut-être, vous parliez de backroom deals au sujet du Conseil européen, qui est effectivement suspecté, et par beaucoup de journalistes aussi, d'imaginer peut-être des backroom deals, mais votre initiative à trois avec le PPE et les socialistes a été accusée aussi, a été aussi considérée par vos collègues au Parlement européen comme quelque chose de l'ordre du backroom deal, derrière lequel se cachent des arrangements ou des potentiels arrangements sur le partage du pouvoir qui, en particulier entre les socialistes et le PPE au Parlement européen, est un fait avéré et quasiment historique. Merci.
Quelques préjugés additionnels encore. Écoutez, ce sont toujours les mêmes questions que vous me posez. Alors si Juncker me donne raison avec toutes choses, merci beaucoup. Pourquoi je me ne plains pas s'il y a quelqu'un qui raconte la même chose que moi. Mais je vous recommande de comparer ce que Jean-Claude Juncker dit avec le programme du PP et vous verrez immédiatement que la stratégie de mon concurrent, de mon collègue, c'est de se présenter après 20 ans au Conseil comme le Premier ministre du Luxembourg, comme le grand réformateur du système des taxes en Europe. Je crois que ça c'est quand même visible pour les citoyens que ça c'est peut-être d'un point de vue stratégique efficace, mais c'est trop visible. En ce qui concerne le numérique, j'ai pris note que aussi les autres parlent maintenant du numérique, mais là, pour différencier, je peux seulement vous recommander de regarder qui a introduit ce débat très longtemps avant le début de cette campagne ici. Je me suis permis, comme président de mon institution, de discuter déjà très longtemps sur les chances et les risques du numérique. Donc, pour répondre très précisément à votre question, faire la différence, je prends note que le candidat du Parti populaire européen raconte un programme socialiste. Et même mon ami Guy Verhofstadt est un homme qui j'apprécie beaucoup, personnellement un vrai ami, mais Guy est un champion du monde de présenter sa vision individuelle comme le programme libéral. Là, il était déjà un grand champion au Parlement européen. Moi, je me suis toujours écroulé de rire de l'écouter avec ses discours magnifiques. Et ensuite, j'ai vu la liste de vote du groupe libéral. Je me suis dit, peut-être j'étais dans une autre assemblée. Bon, alors, je me sens conforté dans cette situation que mes concurrents donnent raison à mon programme. Backroom deal, il faut que vous soulevez la question au président des trois groupes. Je connais la critique des autres groupes, surtout de la Gauche unie et des Verts, qui disent nous n'étions pas inclus. Moi, j'ai d'autres informations. Les présidents du groupe, qui je connais tous les trois très bien, m'ont présenté une autre version, mais c'est peut-être à vous de soulever la question. Parce qu'à cette lettre-là, je n'ai pas participé. C'était entre eux. Moi, je n'étais pas involvé.
Yes, Mr. Giovanni Del Re from the Italian newspaper Avvenire. The economic crisis has produced a very strong, rift, division between the so-called Northern Europe and Southern Europe. You certainly know, because you also reacted, that, for example, in Italy there was, not only by Mr. Berlusconi, but also with Grillo, there is very strong attacks against Germany, but the similar attacks have been seen also in Greece and so on. Without speaking especially about Germany in general, what would you do as President of the Commission to reduce this division, which is now unfortunately very obvious? What can be done to reunite the European citizens in the different countries? Thank you.
I think the division is a result of the unbalanced development in the social and economic unbalanced development within the European Union, especially in the Eurozone. I repeat what I said in my introduction. In your country, some regions with around 40 to 50% unemployed people, especially young people without a chance. And this view that because of this economic power and impact of the Federal Republic of Germany and the presentation also, this is always Germany, which is, by the way, wrong. It's not always Germany. The Germans are sitting at a table, and often the vote with qualified majority or the unanimous vote is not because of a German veto. It is because of an unsolved fight, an undecided fight between different economic views. And here's Germany not alone. Other member states in the Eurozone and in the Union share the German view, or the view of the German government until the last general election in Germany, that this budgetary discipline leads, if it is credible and visible, to regain the trust of investors. That was the message. You must assign your public budgets, you must show discipline, and the investors will get back. That was told to people and to governments, and it was decided to go that way. Our proposals in the European Parliament, by the way, my own proposals were always, this is not enough. We must reform our budgets. We must reduce the sovereign debt. By the way, this is a question of solidarity between generations. I'm absolutely in favor to reduce the sovereign debt and to fight against this debt crisis, because I don't want that my children and their children still have to pay for the sovereign debt of my generation. But you must not be a professor in economy to understand, without growth and employment and the revenue side of the budget, we spoke about taxation, you will never assign a public budget. And therefore this is an unsolved, undecided situation in which direction the European Union should go. My feeling is there is an increasing number of responsible on the national and the European level prepared to go now the way for combining strategic investments in growth and in employment and in the fight against unemployment of young people as the other side of the medal with budgetary discipline. The Growth and Stability Pact has the title Growth and Stability Pact, but it was very long time only discussed as a stability pact and interpreted as a stability pact. And that leads to an unbalanced situation, and now in such a situation of hopelessness, of the feeling to be lost and to be abandoned, people follow parties or leaders who have no solution for the problems but a scapegoat. For everything a scapegoat, for nothing a solution. In some countries, quite clear, Germany, and when they say Germany, they say in the same moment Merkel. is the responsible for everything. I'm a little bit astonished about that. It is like this, I think it was Gary Lineker who said once as a football player, a football match has 90 minutes and at the end always the Germans win. This is not true, but everybody believes it. So, and it is like in Brussels, 28 heads of states and government around the table, and at the end is always Merkel. I'm not a defender of Angela Merkel, I think this is known, but it is not Merkel alone. It is a whole political philosophy behind that, to which Angela Merkel belongs. And there is one of the candidates who was mentioned by your French colleague just, who is giving right to my program, who was a part of all the decisions during the last years. And he's now telling to the people that he was always absent when it was decided. So to fight against these prejudices, to avoid this scapegoat policy, we must rebalance the economic and social development in Europe, and especially to fight against this unemployment of young people. If you allow, I want to add an experience I have during this campaign. Brian told about my trip around Europe. There are two things, if I discuss with citizens, there are 90% of people are pro-European. If I discuss with them about the dream that countries and nations cooperate across borders in common institutions, if they look to Ukraine, where a strong country tells to a weak country, I'm strong, you are weak, you do what I want to do, what I want you to do. Power policy. And if you look to the European Union, where internally we created systems avoiding such a development, from a principal point of view, big and smaller countries deal in a frame on equal footing with the same rights in mutual respect. If you discuss with citizens about that idea, they share the view. But they have not the feeling that the European Union is going in that direction. A lot of people tell me, you are only discussing about billions. 15 billion here, 30 billion there, 20 billions yesterday, 40 billions tomorrow. For most of our citizens, $1 million is enormous money. But 96% of our citizens have to live between 1,000 and 2,000 euros. And they have the feeling, my life with my 1,000 and 2,000 euros, the life of my children unemployed, they don't care about that, they are not interested in. That's one of the reasons why the scapegoat experts have a chance for the time being. I want to change the European Union and the institutions here to care first of all about the ordinary citizen's life with 1,000 and 2,000 euros, and to care about the fate of their children. And if we achieve and we show we support small and medium enterprises built by their children or employing their children, and we give them risk capital, we protect them, that backbone of the European economy in some of the countries, I'm sure if something happens, we will regain trust. And the trust we need to avoid that people like this man, Mr. Berlusconi, with his really shameful attacks. And I'm from time to time surprised that I'm a stronger defender of Angela Merkel against this man than the people of the own party of Angela Merkel, but okay, they sit with him in one group.
Knut Brees of Funke Media Group from Germany. 2 questions, please. I'm over here. One has to do with the rise and expected success of the Eurosceptics in the elections. We're talking about something between a quarter or even 30%, maybe. What these people are doing is different. What they are propagating is a different message. It's not about which priorities the European Union should have, which political direction it should take. They put into question the whole project, which they claim has been wrong from the start, or at least gone much too far. It has to be stopped and reversed. So my question to you is, to which extent will this election be a vote on the fundamental question of yes to the European project or no? Second question relates to the election, your election campaign in Great Britain, a country which has been decidedly unenthusiastic about the whole process. So to which extent have you been able to carry your message and your campaign to Britain, and to which extent will it be an obstacle for your eventual nomination as Commission President? Thank you.
I will try to win a majority in the European Parliament. I think the Socialist Group, included the Labour members, has a real chance to become the biggest group in the European Parliament, and therefore I'm in close contact with my Labour colleagues. I will not go to the United Kingdom to campaign, and the investments in my election campaign, on which is concerning the Eurosceptics and those who want to destroy the European Union. Yes, you are right. This is also not only about a program. It is about if those who believe that the European Union is based on a historical achievement, transnational cooperation leading to a transnational democracy, with common institutions at the frame to guarantee a common political strategy for 28 countries, which all alone are too weak to survive with their model of democracy in the 21st century, to cooperate, to strengthen each other by preserving national identity, cultural heritage and legacy, but to combine it into an economic force we need to compete with other parts of the world where our values don't matter and where the disrespect of environmental, social and individual rights becomes the highest advantage in economic competition. To defend our democratic systems and values against such a competition requires a strong European Union as an economic and political union. This is my deep conviction, and I believe, backed by an overwhelming majority, as I said in a previous answer, of Europeans. If the European Union internally is socially fair and just, and this is not the case for the time being. Therefore, my proposals for more fairness and more justice is an instrument to regain trust. The moment we regain trust of citizens who have lost the trust, the conjuncture of those who try to destroy the European Union from internally is finished. But for the time being, it is a real threat. And as you are German as I, as Mr. Schulz, and you, Mr. Pries, know, we have in Germany an additional problem 75 years after the beginning of the Second World War. We run as Germans the risk that the apologists of the ideology of Adolf Hitler could get a seat in the next European Parliament. For me, in Germany especially, after the judgment of the Constitutional Court in Germany, without a threshold, this risk is real. The German Nazis occupy seats in the European Parliament. And therefore, the turnout is decisive. In Germany, more than in other countries, it is a duty, a high responsibility of Democrats to participate in the election, because a high turnout in Germany avoids that these people could once more represent a shame for our nation on an international level. So my fight for social justice, for fairness, for employment, for chances for young men and women, for the next generation, is a fight to defend and to save an idea which is without precedent in history. Transnational democracy as a frame of economic cooperation and deepening economic integration as a tool to defend our democratic systems and values in a time in which they are under threat internally and in a worldwide competition. This is my idea a Commission President should deal with from the early morning to the late night, and therefore it is a fight against these people who want to destroy that idea. Those who tell us that we should reintroduce borders, that one nation is higher than another, those who vote skinheads as vice presidents of parliaments. As vice president of a democratic parliament, we have now a man who is a skinhead. Those who want to destroy the European Union from internally destroy not an institution. They tried to destroy an idea which brought the European countries and the European citizens more than peace. It brought the longest period of peace, wealth and stability, and I think it is worthwhile to run for defend it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.